do feel like more and more I'm just using this channel as a way to hold myself accountable to actually read the many books that I'm buying. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be a priority reads list for the rest of the year. Now I know a lot of people made this sort of video last month, so that it was for sort of the last 3 months of the year, but I'm a little bit late to the game, and basically I'm just having a look at what books I would really like to read before the end of this year, which there is only 2.5 months left, and I've already done my October TBR, and I can't really add anything extra to read in October because I'm a little bit behind on my October TBR, so I might not even finish that. So basically these are books I'm going to have to either try and get onto November or December's TBR, or just admit defeat. But to be honest, if these books end up getting read at the beginning of next year, that is absolutely fine. But basically this is a list of books that I have on my shelves that I particularly want to get to soon, and there are various different reasons for that. I'm going to talk you through it obviously as I talk through each book, but my general rule here is that these priority reads that are like new releases that are due to come out before the end of the year. There's a couple of those as well that I know I definitely want to get on my TBR and that I will want to read as soon as they come out, but these ones are more ones that have been sat on my shelf for whatever reason, some of them slightly longer than others, and it's ones I'm kind of just looking at and like, yeah, I actually need to prioritize reading these because otherwise I don't know when I'm going to pick them up, and they are books that I really want to read. So without further ado, let's get into the 5, kind of 6, but also kind of leads to like 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year or early next year. This is a very ill-defined video, as you can probably tell, but yeah, let's get into the list. So we're going to start off with one book that is kind of 2 books that is also kind of 5 books really, because it's more of a general like larger concept of books. But anyway, let me explain. So the first one on this list is Raybearer by Jordan F. Waker, and that also means that I want to read Redemptor, which is a sequel. So as you may be able to tell from these books, these are fancy special editions. These are the Illumicrate editions, and they are very pretty. They've got a lot of foiling on there. They've got ombre edges. They are beautiful. I have not read these books, and yet I bought the special editions. If you've watched my hauls previously, you know that that is something that I tend to do. I tend to buy the special editions for fear of missing out on them, and basically the idea should be that I order them and then I read them before they come so that I can decide if I actually want to keep them, if I want to cancel my order potentially, or if I'm just going to sort of pass them on to somebody else or sell them on to somebody else. And this series arrived, I think, 2 months ago now, and I still haven't even got around to touching it at all. I'm very interested in this series. Everything that I've read of the synopsis, I'm very interested in. I can't really remember too much of the synopsis to give you any more like details on that, because I've read it once and I don't really want to read it too much more because I don't want to know too much going into it. And I do think this is one that's going to be on a sooner rather than later TBR. I'm going to try and get this on November's, I believe, at least the first one. If I don't read the second one by the end of this year, that's absolutely fine, as long as I have actually made a start on the series, because that's the issue, is that I'm not even starting series and I'm buying them. If I buy a full set and I've read the first one but I haven't read the second one, that's fine, but I should at least know that I'm like the series in some capacity, surely. And when I said that this is also kind of 5 books, it's because I've just done the same thing with the Jade City Greenbone saga, is that what it's called? The Fonderly ones, which is Jade City, Jade Legacy and Jade War. I think I've said those in the wrong order, but anyway, I've just bought the Illumicrate versions of that and I've not started the series yet, but I'm very interested in it, and those copies were too pretty to pass up, so that could potentially be on here as well. I should probably read that, at least the first one, before the end of the year. I do have the ebook for it, so I can read it before my special editions arrive. But yeah, basically I need to read the special edition ones that I keep ordering. Luckily I have, I think, 3 more special edition sets coming from Illumicrate this year, but with those I've actually like made more progress with all of them. So there's 2 Victoria Schwab one. I had the Extraordinary graphic novel, which is fine because I've read Vicious and I've read Vengeful, so I'm up to date on the villains series. Other than that, I also have the Dark Shade of Magic set, which I've read all of them. I just had the second 2 books come in so I can add them to my first one, which is just up there. And then also I have got the TJ Klune set, which is House on the Cerulean Sea, which I have read, and then Under the Whispering Door, which I haven't because it's a new release. So that is fine, everything else is fine. It's just these ones and the Greenbone Saga that I need to get on my TBR as soon as possible, really. The next one does actually kind of fit in with those as well, which is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. For this one, there's a couple of reasons why I want to read it. One is that I've owned it for years and it keeps staring at me on my shelves. 2 is that I put it on my 5-star predictions video, and I believe it may be the last one that I have left to read from that. So once I've read this, I can do my whole sort of reaction to my 5-star predictions, and I can also do a new set of 5-star predictions. So there's sort of many reasons there why I would want to read this. But also they just announced the 3rd book in this in the Fairy Loot version of it. So I had the Fairy Loot one here for the first book, because I got this one when I was subscribed to them many years ago. I don't actually own the 2nd book. I don't own the Fairy Loot version, and I've looked and I don't think I'll be able to find it for cheap. But I have bought the 3rd Fairy Loot edition, and what I'm thinking of doing is buying just a regular hardback version of the 2nd one and then painting the edges myself so that they all kind of have the pretty sprayed edges. But yes, I've just bought the Fairy Loot 3rd one, even though I haven't even started the series yet, but it's just because it looked really pretty and I wanted it with the sprayed edges. So yeah, I should have, to be honest, I should have bought the 2nd one when it went on sale. I did get the link for it and I just didn't buy it, because I'd not read this. And if that would have happened now, I would have just bought it, because I know I'm really interested in this series and I know I want the full thing. But because of when it went on sale and it being like before I was sort of into book collecting as much as I am now, it wasn't something that really crossed my mind. But yeah, I would like to actually make a start with this one for, like I said, collectible reasons, and also just to see if it is a 5-star prediction like I think it might be. Next up is one that I have been wanting to read for a while, but I found it quite intimidating, so that's why I haven't picked it up. But now there are kind of other things where I'm like, actually, I've proven that I can read books like this now, so I don't know why I'm still intimidated by it, and that is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. So this is a big book, as everyone can see. It's about dragons. It is not usually what I would have said I like to read. It's 830 pages long, which is huge. It also just looks a lot bigger than it is though, because bear with me 1 second. This is 830 pages. This is how chunky it is. The book I am currently reading is almost exactly the same length, and it just looks so much less intimidating. I feel like when you put them together, there is a big difference there. I mean, obviously the paper size is probably a big thing. It's to do with the thickness of the paper. This probably has more of that really thin, you know, I mean, you can get those sort of like Bible paper, can't you, where it's super thin, and books can be very deceiving in how long they actually are. But this has got actual like decent quality paper, so it probably looks a lot bigger than it is anyway. But I've read a couple of books that sort of size now. I'm reading Robin Hobb, so I'm getting used to reading big 800, 900 page books, and that's not going to stop anytime soon, because I'm planning on reading all the Robin Hobb books, and I've read 3 of 16 so far. So this shouldn't really scare me anymore. But for some reason it still kind of does. I think it is just literally the size of it. Like, I know I wouldn't want to take this out of the house with me. Although that being said, I just carried around my copies of Empire of the Vampire to read that one, which is a 700 page book and is also a big hardback like this. So I don't know what it is that makes this one feel more intimidating than anything else does, but it does for some reason. So the reason why I want to read this before the end of this year is that one of the things that I know has put me off reading it previously is that I set myself reading challenges at the beginning of the year, which are obviously arbitrary goals. Like, it doesn't matter necessarily how many books I'm reading as long as I'm enjoying reading. But with this one being so big and it being so intimidating to me, if I put it on a TBR earlier on in the year, I'm like, oh, but I could have read 3 books in the time that I read that, and then that'll count towards my Goodreads goal or my just general reading goal. So I think putting it on a TBR at the end of the year is actually a good thing, because I'm already well on my way to hitting my stretch goal for the year. So once I've got to that goal, there's no excuse for this, because everything I read is extra. So that's what I'm thinking. Put this on the TBR in December and there is no excuse then for me to go, oh well, actually I need to make time to read other things because I need to get this done. I need to get this many number of books read this year because I'll have already done that. That's what my logic is anyway. I don't know how much sense that actually makes, but that's where my logic is going at the minute. Next up is another sort of one book that is actually kind of two books, and that's probably a fairly random book actually on this list. The other ones have all been sort of like series that I've heard talk about on BookTube and stuff, and this one is one that I haven't heard talk about too much. I have heard Emma from Emma Books talk about this author, and that's actually how I started reading their work. And the book I want to read is Let's Call It a Doomsday by Katie Henry. So Katie Henry wrote a book that I've read previously, which was Heretics Anonymous, and I really enjoyed this book. This was the one that was recommended by Emma from Emma Books, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, so much so that I pre-ordered this one for when it came out and then just never got around to reading it. Not for sort of lack of interest, it's actually one that every time I look at it I'm like, oh, that sounds really intriguing, but I just haven't picked it up yet. It's basically about a girl who has this fear that the world's going to end, and then she's in a therapist's office and she ends up meeting somebody who they believe that they know when the world is going to end, and they form some sort of friendship or relationship in there, and it's not necessarily the most healthy thing for either of them when one of them is constantly worried that the world's going to end and the other one says, yes it is, I know when it's going to happen. And I'm really intrigued by this, and like I said, I loved Katie Henry's other book, so I think I'm going to like this, and I don't know why I keep putting it off. And the reason why this one is on my priority read for the end of the year is that since then Katie Henry has had another book come out that I also pre-ordered and also have not read yet, because I want to read this one before I read this one, which is called This Will Be Funny Someday, which I do not even really know the synopsis of. It's about stand-up comedy, I believe. But yeah, I now have two books by this author that I really want to read, and it's just that they're sitting there on my shelves staring at me, and I don't know why I haven't picked either of them up. So again, hopefully I can pick this one up before the end of the year, and then I'll feel better about still having this one to read, or it'll spur me on to also pick this one up because, you know, sometimes you're just in the mood to read from one author. And then last but not least, this is one that I mentioned quite a few times that I want to read before the end of the year. One of my favourite authors is V. Schwab. I've talked about her many times on this channel, and I have read most of her books now. The only ones that I haven't read are the Everyday Angel series, which I don't really plan on reading, the Archive series, which I have and would have liked to have read this year, but I don't think I'll have time to read that, and also this other one, which is actually to finish off a duology. So I have read this Savage Song and I really need to read Our Dark Duet, but in order to read Our Dark Duet I think I need to reread this Savage Song because I don't remember a lot of it, which is part of the reason why I've been sort of putting this one off, because I know I need to reread this one. There is a readathon coming up in November that I'm taking part in. It's Royal Readathon. I will link the announcement video down below, and I know that one of the prompts is to reread a favourite, so I'm thinking that maybe if I can try and reread this one for that, and then I can carry on with Our Dark Duet and maybe able to fit this into another prompt. I can't remember all the prompts completely off the top of my head, but fingers crossed I get these two done in November or December at the latest, because I really enjoyed the start to this series. So again, I'm not entirely sure why I've been putting it off, other than the fact that I know I need to reread this one because I know it's been a while since I've read it. Hopefully this one will get done before the end of the year. So taking out any of the extras that I need to read in order to read some of these, or any of the extras that these might make me want to read after, this is the 5 books that I would like to read before the end of the year. This is sort of the priority TBR as it were, and any of the others are sort of extras, bonuses, great, apart from obviously the one that I need to read this. But I mean, it's not too intimidating. I do only have 2 months left, but I just know now that I will try and make a point of getting these onto my TBR, because once something's on my TBR, I do my TBR game every month, and once something's on there I am more likely to pick it up. So fingers crossed I can get these onto TBR prompts, and I will power through and have these done by next year. Like I said, if I don't get them done by December, then I should get them done by the very latest, like the beginning of next year. So let's maybe give myself 3 months. Let's give myself till January, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I don't know, like I said, this video is literally just me holding myself accountable, because if I hold them up here, I will have to sort of judge myself later on whether or not I did actually manage to do it. So thanks for watching me hold myself accountable today. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know if you guys have particular books that you're wanting to read before the end of the year. Do you like to sort of set time frames on when you're going to read something, or are you more of a mood reader and you just pick it up when you pick it up? Do you not really care? Or do you have books that have been staring at you on your shelf for sometimes years at a time like I have? Right, that's everything. I'll see you guys soon with a new video. Bye.